Again, thank you for joining us today for our webinar, Ramp Up Resource Usage about EBSCO Discovery Service. We have two presenters today. First up is Christopher Hawley. Christopher is a Director of SaaS Innovation at EBSCO. He has been improving systems and services for libraries for more than 15 years, working for both libraries and library vendors. Prior to joining EBSCO, he served as Executive Director of CCS, a 24-library consortium in Northern Illinois, where he focused on modernizing operations and developed a new strategic plan. Christopher holds a Master of Library and Information Science degree from the University of Pittsburgh and a Master of Business Administration degree from Loyola University, Chicago. Second, we have a special guest. We didn't have this on our invitation, but we have Barry Trott. Barry is a Director of Special Projects and Technical Services at the Williamsburg Regional Library in Virginia. He has served as President of ALA's Reference and User Services Association and editor of their peer-reviewed journal, Reference and User Services Quarterly. He was the series editor for Libraries Unlimited Read On series and author of Read On Crime Fiction. Barry has contributed articles and chapters to numerous publications, including the Encyclopedia of Library and Information Science, Reference Reborn, Journal of Library Administration, and Research-Based Readers Advisory. Barry has presented programs on books, readers, and reading for the American Library Association Annual Conference, the Public Library Association Conference, and the Virginia Library Association Conference, and for library systems throughout the country. In 2007, he was awarded both the Public Library Association's Allie Beth Martin Award and the ALA Reference and User Services Association's Margaret E. Monroe Library Adult Services Award in recognition for his work in Readers Advisory Services. Okay, and with that, I'm going to pass the ball off to Christopher Hawley.
Great, thanks so much, Kim. Good afternoon for those of you in where it's an afternoon, I guess. Good morning to those where it might be morning. Hello. Yeah, as Kim mentioned, I'm one of the Software as a Service directors here at EBSCO. And what I thought I'd do is, since we're focused on statistics, is go through some example statistics that we've seen of a usage before and after the installation of EBSCO Discovery Service. And then after that, I'll talk a little bit more about our user research and now how that informed the design of our EBSCO Discovery Service, or EDS system. After that, I'll hand it over to Barry, who I think you'll be really interested to hear his point of view as he talks about a library who implemented EDS and what they're doing at the Williamsburg Regional Library to increase usage of their own resources. So I'm going to share my screen here with you and bring that PowerPoint slide up. So obviously here today we're talking about EBSCO Discovery Service. One thing that we have found is that EBSCO Discovery Service, because of the way it's designed, really helps draw people in to resources that they might not be aware that your libraries own. And it helps get them to things, whether it be travel reviews or information on really current topics like long-term care insurance, or it can also get them to other online content that you might have, maybe washing machine information or other things that wouldn't be quite as quickly and easily accessible from things that are typically available in print from your catalog. And so what we've seen as far as those stats go are what I'm going to show you. So each of these libraries I'm going to point out are currently utilizing EBSCO Discovery Service. So you can go to their websites and go to these search boxes and check it out on your own. Mobile Public Library in Alabama. Here you can see their staff is a 9-branch system serving over 474,000 people. And what they've chosen to do is break out their search box into more of a research area focused on magazines and newspaper articles that takes them into the EDS system to showcase their online content. They also have separate tabs for their website. The books, movies, and music does actually take you into their EDS system as well, but there it's pulling in more of the catalog information into the EDS interface. What we found as usage before and after EDS is quite compelling, and these are statistics that we see across the board with a lot of libraries. Naturally, the searches are going to go up because you're searching more things at once. You're searching all of this article and online content as well as the catalog. But I think what's even more compelling is if you look at things like full text retrievals and full text link outs to non-EBSCO resources. And look how dramatically those have jumped in the EBSCO case from, they just about doubled here from 2,300 to 4,700, whereas getting to non-EBSCO resources, I mean, a huge jump. And this is getting to a specific content, to the specific retrieval and download. And so it speaks more to than just getting a search result. These are active search results that have really meant something to the end user. Another example here is the Mid-Continent Public Library System. They have their search box separated out into a separate research page, and so I want to research, you can type in your topic and search from there. And then here we can see some of their statistics as they go from before and after. And again, focusing more on those middle two columns with the full text retrievals and the full text link outs to non-EBSCO resources. Just huge jumps in people being able to get to specific content, probably that they weren't even aware that they could get from the library because they may have not known where to go to get that. And then finally, another example, Snow Isle Libraries, 23 branches serving over 729,000 people. And here they have a drop-down box that allows you to select articles and research, which takes you into EBSCO Discovery Service. And from there, again, you can see this pattern of full text retrievals and downloads and full text link outs really jumping up because of EBSCO Discovery Service making it easier to find and access this content without really needing to know which database to select in the first place. So with that said, as the context for this, how does all this come about? Why do we see these increases in usage? And a lot of what has informed the design of EBSCO Discovery Service, or EDS, has been the user research that the user research arm at EBSCO has done. And here you can see an example slide illustrating, in this case, how college students conduct research. But I think this applies to people of various aspects of their lives and how they might be working with things. One of the elements that the research team looks at is what kind of vocabulary people use, and also what kinds of tools people tend to use when they go online. How do they use Google? How do they know about this particular iPhone or Android app? And by understanding those usage patterns, it helps us in the design of EDS to make sure it's reflecting a very intuitive approach to how people would access information. So EDS is part of the Software as a Service suite here at EBSCO. And just to talk a little bit more about that, being on the Software as a Service team as the Director of Software as a Service Innovation, one thing that we're focused on is software and how it helps enable someone conducting their daily work through a library or how they find information. We've tried to conceptualize this in what we've termed the end user journey. So we've looked at how do people find the library, How do they navigate your website? And then from there, once they're at your online presence, how do they discover and access information, get into specific publications, and even authenticate if they need to. And so these tie into products that we either create ourselves here at WEBSCO or products that we have partnered with other organizations to help market. So as you can see, WEBSCO Discovery Service is the key cog in this whole wheel as we access that information. Stacks is for content management, Open Athens is for authentication, Zafira is for linked data. The Full Text Finder is also a component that exists within and in parallel to WEBSCO Discovery Service for things like A to Z lists of publications and helping you to link out to information. So that's how all of this fits in. And with this user research in mind, let's think about how your typical patron might experience getting to resources at the library. So typically when people try to access stuff, it's pretty pervasive. They usually go to a search engine. Usually people go to Google, and you type in something like Syrian refugees relocation in the U.S. And so in the case of Google, you get a variety of results, and you try and get into some of these materials. So we can see there's stuff from U.S. News, Wall Street Journal, New York Times. As you go to click into some of those links, though, you often encounter some kind of wall, some kind of obstacle. Maybe you need to subscribe to it, or maybe you need to set up a trial or actually purchase it. But you can't always get to that content, that premium content that you want. In the case of New York Times, you may only have so many views until then it forces you into purchase it. So it can often become a frustrating, cumbersome process for people to really get to the information that they're actually looking for and they want. I think it's really a nice screenshot here. This is actually from Morton Grove Public Library in Illinois. And what they've pulled together is a sense of what are premium resources and what are websites. How do they differ? How do I make sure I get to trusted content that's vetted, what's often that premium online database content? And so there they have premium resources versus websites. And I think some key points to consider here are elements of authorship, accuracy, the organization who produces it, the point of view, and the timeliness of it. And what the libraries obviously can offer is this trusted environment in which to access information. So if we can make that search process of Google, which provided some really nice results from resources that people might not want to pay for, but create that same experience where people already have access to that premium content, we get a win-win in all cases. And I think this is where we start seeing those statistics drive up. And so here we can see that same search done in EDS, in our WEBSCO Discovery Service. And so you can get various articles from a variety of publications. There's your full text, PDF full text download link or send to my cloud link. And that's what we found. People recognize the terms PDF, full text, and to be able to access this because your library has it is a big deal. And so that's what EDS can provide. Aside from current news topics, think about the kinds of publications that you might subscribe to at your library, things like Consumer Reports and other sorts of reviews that people trust. This could be a great place to search for things like different car models and comparing them. If you were to try that search in your catalog without connecting in the online database content, you'd probably get some kind of redirect or we weren't able to find you information because your catalog records aren't going to go into that much detail. On the other hand, you throw that kind of search into an EDS system and it's going to pull up from the variety of resources you subscribe to, whether it's WEBSCO or Gale or other information providers, those are covered within the EDS index. It's not just WEBSCO resources. And so you have access to, in this case, different kinds of reviews for cars. So what can often be, and we found this through our user research, what can often be really confusing to the end user is when they go into these A to Z lists of databases, they just don't know which one to choose or where to get started. The really nice thing about these one universal index is that EDS can sift through all that and get to the key content regardless of which database it comes from. So here we have another example of another site, in this case, Hennepin County Library. They've done a similar approach that we saw earlier with Mobile Public, where I can click on that magazine and newspaper articles to tap in. Other libraries, like the Salt Lake County Library, sets up a research room, and so you can go in and do your research in a research room. The nice thing here is you have the ability to customize these search boxes and place these links in an appropriate spot for your own users. So you can think about not only the research that we've done, but also the research that you've done of your patrons. Where do they go for things? How do they access this information? And you can provide these things in different ways to help people get to it. And again, I think that placement of the search box can be key to helping drive people to these resources and drive up usage. And I know Barry's going to talk a little bit about that as far as his setup at Williamsburg. So when we improve the user experience, I think it's important to think about some key terms and key areas to consider. So it has to be usable. Well, what does that mean? Research shows that students and library patrons turn to Google first, the top of their mind. The library tends not to be. So discovery needs to be easy to use. That's a key piece in this. You know, what is Google? It's familiar, it's quick, it's easy to absorb, and so having an interface that does that. Fast, that's another key thing. And the one thing that's really nice with EDS, it's actually based on one central unified index. So you aren't doing any kind of Z3950 or federated searching. That's not happening. Because of this central index, it's actually pre-indexed all this information. It's pulled it together in a way that it can retrieve it very quickly and get you to those results. Because of the central index, it's also smart because we're able to set up specialized metadata and relevancy ranking in ways that gets you to the results near the top of the list, because we also know they don't tend to scroll very much. You need it in that screen or in the first couple results, and so having relevant data is important. Making it easy to navigate. So again, keeping that result in the top 5 results so they don't have to look further is key. And then also readable. Are the segments there skimmable, easy to scan, and jump around and read? So those are all pieces that have gone into the design of our interface. So I just want to emphasize this point a little bit more because I know this often comes up where people have used legacy tools that relied on federated search. And some of you might even be sitting there and saying, well, yeah, 10 years ago, we were interested in doing this kind of thing, but it just didn't really live up to our options. What's nice is 10 years later, now we actually have a much better full-scale technology that can provide a faster, more relevant approach to searching than federated search. So federated search, as we know, is not easy to navigate. It's not smart. It's not readable. It's not fast. It's not like Google or Wikipedia, but EDS is. Some other points I just want to emphasize about EDS is that we actually have a group of library services engineers who work with the product on a regular basis. They work with existing customers as well. And what they're constantly doing is looking at ways to tweak the interface, make different apps and other features within EDS that suit people's needs. They might, by visiting with one library, they may get an idea for a certain app, et cetera. And so it's nice to know that there's an app for that. So within the EDS apps and cloud services suite, there's a whole array of different apps and features and things that can be turned on and added to EDS to help customize that experience for your users. And we'll take a look at some of those when we pop into the live demo. In addition to that, we've done some really nice integration with other tools within EDS. So for example, Novelist offers some real rich data around things like read-alikes, series information, and even viewing similar authors. And so we've made this is actually a screenshot from EDS pulling in that information. In addition to that, we've got, let's see here, the cloud, the send PDF to my cloud. So the quick, easy integration of being able to save to whether it's Dropbox or OneDrive, and you have that capability to save it to whatever your preferred cloud service is and connect it in that way. One of the other nice features of this central index of EDS is that it can actually be carved down into specific components. And one really nice feature that we've set up is the ability to search specific publications. And this can actually be pulled out as a separate widget. So if there are specific publications that you would like people to find, you might not know what database those are searched in, but you don't have to know because the central index will do that work for you. And so here we can see an example of the Kentucky Virtual Library having created a separate search widget for just consumer reports. So that might be a nice feature that you'd want to do. Or People Magazine might be another one that you might want to use as well. The other thing that we've done in our library services engineers in some of their testing and practice work have actually done some tethering of EDS along with things like the Internet of Things. So here we can see an example of the Amazon Echo, and they've actually tied in our EDS API with it so that you can do direct calls to find out information from your library and what's going on in your library, which is like super cool. Now this is still in its testing phase, but I just think it's something really neat to mention is this kind of integration with other tools and other means that people might want to use to market and access the library. So with all of that said as some background, let's just take a quick look at EDS. I'm going to show a couple examples and then I'll pass it over to Barry. So here we see another example of a different library. This one is St. Charles City County Library. They've called theirs Total Search, and I'm going to do a search for just something as simple as library hours. And you might be saying, whoa, wait, why are you searching library hours? It's a catalog or it's a discovery system. But I think one thing that's really nice is that you have the capability of setting up these specialized placards in EDS. And so what these can actually do is understand that you've done a certain type of search that might not be data that's in a database that you want or in a catalog, but you want to get the library hours. And so you can see what are your hours, you can link to that. They also see other frequently asked questions like getting a library card. This kind of sophistication can also be set up for other things, like let's say somebody's searching genealogy. You can have it highlight something like MyHeritage and point people to other databases and things that might be of interest. But since we're here, and maybe I am looking for a book with hours, library hours in the title, here we can see some examples, and this also points out some really nice customization that they've chosen to do here, is this book is available, so it's green. This book is not available, and so it's coded red. That's an optional setting in the system that you can use. It's another one of those apps and features that our library services engineers have handled. Here you can also see I can place my holds. I can get to the read-alike information from novelists, the viewing similar authors from novelists, et cetera. So this does handle your catalog information really nicely too. EDS doesn't just have to be for your online resources, so you have an option of whether or not you want to pull in your catalog data. So that's one example, the St. Charles City County. I'll switch over to Mobile Public, which I had mentioned earlier, and here if we do a search in the magazine and newspaper articles for something like washing machines, because I want to get some washing machine reviews. Here I can get some, it's pulling me right up to Consumer Reports 2018 Buying Guide. There's that full text PDF. I can click on that and get to that information right from there. So again, just some nice real conveniences there. Again, helping drive people to the titles that you have online or from your online databases without having to know which database to go to. I think this is also really nice for searches like, let's say we're going to search, I mentioned this one earlier, long-term care insurance. This search was actually recommended to me by someone within the Galileo system in Georgia who said she had actually been looking for this kind of information and was finding that the books and things in the library weren't necessarily up to date. But in searching their EDS system, they were able to get some really nice current information in full text available to them, searching across the databases available to them at their institution and easily getting them in their hands. So hopefully that gives you a true sense of how easy it is to access some of this information, some of the features that are available within WEBSCO Discovery Service. From here, I'm going to actually pass the baton over to Barry, and I'm going to stop. Oh, whoops, there's one more thing I wanted to show before I pass the baton, because I wanted to talk about some of the different deployment options. So I think it's important to understand, and we saw this a little bit already, is that libraries have different ways of how they might want to deploy EDS. We saw with the St. Charles City County, they pulled in their catalog, but that's an option. You don't have to pull in the catalog. As we saw with the Mobile Public, they did a separate search just for their online resources. And so you can do the EDS native interface without your catalog. In the case of Mobile, they've done it both ways. So you can really try and hit everything in whatever combination might work well for your patrons. In addition to that, there is also something called the EDS API, and that can feed directly into other interfaces like Cersei Dynix Enterprise, Innovative Encore, and Viewfind. And what you'll find is some institutions will set that up and also set up a native interface for EDS and set up them in parallel search boxes, and that's similar to what they've done at Williamsburg, as Barry will show you. And what this helps with is mixing and matching to suit your library. By creating multiple access points to the same data, that will also help increase your usage and increase driving traffic to the online content. So hopefully that helps explain some of the different solutions and capabilities of EDS. Like I said, I'm going to turn it over to Barry, and he can talk about his experiences with the product. So take it away, Barry.
All right, thanks. So I am the presenter. I'm going to share my screen here, so everybody should be seeing. So I think Christopher's point about discovery making things easier for people is a really important one, but Christopher and Kim asked me to talk real quickly about my library a little bit, just sort of as a background. So we were actually one of the first, if not the first, public library to go live with EDS back in, I think, 2012. We started the implementation. We serve a population in southeastern Virginia of about 85,000 people. A lot of retirees. It's a heavily retiree and older community. We circulate about 1.2 million items a year out of our collection. And in terms of our digital resources especially, we have a very strong 16-year formal partnership with our local public school system where we work real hard through that to promote our digital resources. And the screen you're looking at right now shows all of those different digital collections that we have, and it's a lot. And as Christopher said, it can be very hard for a user to know, where do you start here? Where do I go? And so what Discovery does is it allows the user to, like with Google, to search through one search box and pull together a variety of different kinds of content. So as I said, we were a very early EDS adopter in the public library world. And at that time, EDS was very much, I think, an academic product. It had grown out of the academic library world. And I think there's a difference between the way public library users and academic library users approach information. In the academic library world, the approach is really just to find the stuff. The format is less important than the results. So you want good results, but you don't really care. Is it a monograph? Is it an article? Is it a thesis? Is it a dissertation? Whatever it happens to be. In the public library, users still are primarily searching for things based on format. They want a book. They want an audio book, and we have to keep that in mind as you set up things like EDS, how are you going to ensure that your content that most of your library users are looking for is going to be the hottest in the search results? And so that's something we worked on quite a bit with the engineers and developers at EBSCO when we were setting up EDS to make sure that the relevancy ranking and the hotness of library catalog content was there. So we were pushing our catalog results up as close to the top as possible. So that's one of the things to think about. Another thing to think about is, do you want to show, because you can show in EDS, any content vendor that EBSCO happens to partner with and their products. So in many public libraries, we don't have the thousands or hundreds of databases that an academic library might have. So for instance, our library doesn't have any of the Oxford databases. So we don't choose to show them. We turn those off in EDS because we don't want to take people to content where all they're seeing is an abstract and they can't get to the full text. Some of the things you have to think about. And then what are the mechanisms you're going to set up for full text linking? So those are some things maybe to consider as if you do decide to go with EDS, and you'll be working with, the setup piece with the EBSCO developer and engineer folks. Keep those sort of things in mind. And so with that being said, we've taken a couple of different approaches, as Christopher mentioned. So let me go to our main page of our website. So right here, you'll notice you should be seeing a catalog search box, where you can choose, general word, author, title, subject. We're a Circe Dynex library, and we use Enterprise. We also have a tab here that says Search Everything. So I'm going to go down, and I'm going to just do a quick author search for Wendell Berry, who happens to be one of my favorite authors. And what we're looking at now is our native EDS set of search results. And so notice you're going to get a mix of books. These are books in our collection. You can tell because it says request any copy. Articles that Barry has written in HTML and PDF full text. And you can see our catalog content is pretty hot. As you scroll down, it's mostly books, ebooks as well as physical print materials. And if you click on one of those, you're going to get basically a catalog record. You'll get, as Christopher pointed out, we have Novelist Select, which is a great tool. So it's got a lot of series information, read-alikes, similar authors, similar series, story elements. All of that great novelist content is available within the EDS piece. You can then place a hold on the item and get to it. So we knew that that's an option people might use, but when they search with keywords, so say instead of author, we just do Wendell Berry, and you have to spell it correctly. So what you're going to see here is you're going to get these cool research starters, which are a neat thing that EBSCO offers, but you're going to get a lot more of that article content because we didn't search for him specifically as an author. So you're going to get things that are about Wendell Berry, as well as then as you get down further in the list, you'll find the books in the library catalog. So, but we knew that if this was our only tool and people are doing primarily keyword searching, which we know they do an awful lot of, we needed to provide another way for those people who just wanted Wendell Berry's books. And so what we did is we incorporated into our catalog our EDS content. So let me search Wendell Berry again, just in our catalog. When you do that search, notice here we have two tabs. We have one tab that says Library Materials. That's all the books that we have, and audiobooks and ebooks and everything else that Barry has written. But we also have this Articles and Research tab, and that's all the EDS content. Again, starts off with that great research starter, and then you have all these different pieces of content that relate to, in this case, Wendell Berry, and they can be articles by, articles about, reviews of books with the full text link. So if you click on that, again, you go to the PDF full text, and it'll open up here. This is always the danger of doing things live, is showing things. But there we go. So this is a book review in this case of Barry's book, The World Ending Fire. Get out of that result list. So you know, you can choose to use this the native interface for EDS, or you can choose to use the embedded interface. We've chosen to use both because it gives, as Christopher said, people the opportunity to come at the same content through different ways. And what it really does is it gives us a way to ensure that all of this content that you're seeing from our database list is searchable in one place, so making it significantly easier for the users. I quickly looked at some statistical information, and I really wanted to look at long range over the last 6 or so years that we've had EDS implemented. And I can tell you from fiscal 13 to fiscal 18, I looked at use of 3 of our EBSCO databases, Masterfile, Literary, Reference Center, and Novelist Select. The use of those databases from fiscal 13 to fiscal 18 increased by 51%. Now, as they say in any of these advertising kind of things, I guess your mileage may vary, right? But we definitely have seen a significant increase in the downloads and links clicked and articles viewed of those databases. We, of course, are going to see, as Christopher pointed out, a huge increase in searches because EDS is obviously searching everything all the time. I also looked, though, at our general database use, total number of articles viewed, printed, or downloaded from fiscal 12 to fiscal 18, and that use has increased around 300%. Now, we have added some additional databases, obviously, over that time that result in some of that. But I think a large percentage of that increase can be attributed to the ability of our users to find database content when they weren't necessarily even looking for it. And I think that's ultimately what any discovery service, and in particular EDS, will do for you. So I'm going to turn things back over to, I guess, to Christopher, and we'll go from there. And so I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have that I could answer.
Great. Thank you, Barry. That was really great. So I think we were going to go through some questions now. Let's see. See what we have. I have one here. Do you have to include your library catalog in Discovery? I guess either one of you could, Christopher, if you want to take that.
Yeah, I can take that, sure. No, you don't. So that is a choice for the library. So it really comes down to how you want to do it. And if you want to, you probably know who those people are, but we can send them examples of some libraries out there who have chosen not to include their catalog if they want to take a look at what that looks like.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, and then so this is a question about the search box. It looks like each library has set up its own type of search box. Do you find that a certain type of search box style tends to be more effective?
I will say that the search box that we saw earlier with the tabs, where it's a lot more apparent what somebody would be going into. I'll quickly share my screen again. So you know what I'm talking about. Oh, I have to go back to being presenter. Hold on a second. Let me grab it.
I think I just sent it over to you.
Oh, okay, thanks. So let me share that screen again. There we go. If I pull up, I'll just jump back to the beginning, actually. A quick way to find it. Yeah, the mobile public. As you can see there with this particular search box, it calls out the magazine newspaper articles, but I still see books, movies, and music. Website are also available. So we found that tends to be easier for people to follow because it's very apparent. They might not know what's hidden behind a drop-down. So this tends to be the better setup, and making it front and center on the main page tends to drive even more usage. Barry, you might have some comments too on things that you've tested. Yeah,
I was going to say exactly the same thing. I think the tabbed piece, and ours is also 3-tabbed like that, where the first one says catalog, then website, then everything. We struggle for what to call tabs, but everything seemed to capture because, our EDS instance does search the catalog and all the database things. I agree that having that, in fact, we have it on every page of the website. It's part of the structure of every page of the website. You need to put it wherever people might find it.
Right, great. And I do like the tabs that are more specific with books and movies, but I like the tab that says everything, because some people just don't know or they can't make up their mind. So that's great.
You could say our version of Google.
Yes, Google it. Yeah. Yes, call it whatever you want. So yeah, that's all we have for questions right now. So I guess we can finish things up. So everybody, thank you so much for attending. We appreciate it. We know summer is crazy busy for everybody, so we appreciate those who did attend. And then I am going to email a link to this video in a couple of days, and that's it. Thank you so much, everybody, and have a great day.